All right, hello Ace family. In this video, we're kind of gonna do a part 3 um, of doing paint, and this revolves around mix and paint. So what we've got is we've got the customer that actually chose the paint. We talked about color. We've got everything in order, ready to mix, and the last step is mixing it. What I usually do is tell the customer, hey, awesome, our brushes are right around the corner. Here's the spot, kind of the good, better, best deal that we went over in that video. And then that way, while they're shopping, they're looking at stuff, we can come back here and we can make sure that we get the paint all mixed and absolutely perfect for them and their project, their house, the dresser, whatever they're painting. So basically, just as a good overview, hopefully you can see my mouse pointer here. Okay, the first thing you need to know is we have two different programs to actually mix paint. So right here on the Color Designer Plus, and then we have our Benjamin Moore stuff. So the Color Designer Plus is what we use for all of basically all of our paint that is not Benjamin Moore. So our Ace paint, our Royal, our Clark & Kensington, our Cabot, any Rust-Oleum we might have, the Magnolia, it all goes through this program. The other program that we have is actually on the bottom, they're kind of linked, is Color RX, and that's Benjamin Moore's color software that we use to mix all of the Benjamin Moore stuff. So if it is Ben or Regal Select or gets into the Inselux stuff, it's all handled through this program. They look totally different, but that's the first thing that's kind of tricky to get out of the way. So the first thing I wanted to go over was just the maintenance real quick, just so everyone kind of has an idea of what we do. So we're going to go to this box on the bottom left, and we really don't use anything except for the maintain dispenser. I can't say I click on anything a whole heck of a lot. The reason I want to make sure that you know about the maintenance and the just the inner workings of this is one, sometimes when we're mixing a lot of paint, we can run out of colorant, so it's important you know how to refill it. And then if there's some sort of an issue, a plug nozzle or something, I want to make sure that that can be resolved okay, and we can get the customer taken care of. So when we go to maintenance, we're going to have all of these bars, and they're all associated with different colorants that we have. And what we do is the computer, every time we click on one, if we do need to add colorant, we never want to do fill the max, fill all the max, none of that. We just want to add one if we ever do have to fill it, if it's saying that there's an issue. What we do is we always make sure at our store that we have an extra, the computer thinks we have one less quart than what we actually do in our canisters. So S1, right here, our main black colorant, this one is actually almost full. It's going to have 2.93 quarts instead of 1.93. And the reason for that is we never run out of colorant when we're dispensing. The machine always tells us, and it's just a nice safety mechanism with everything. So if we ever have to fill it, that's the case. And the process is we want to throw the colorant that needs to be filled in the shaker for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, make sure it's nice and good. We'll grab a cone as a funnel from under the paint counter, and we just go ahead and dump that in so we can get going on mixing the customer's paint. Just a thing to be aware of, we do not want to make a mistake. It has never happened, but I really don't want it to happen too, is accidentally dumping the incorrect colorant in the incorrect canister. That would just be a huge, expensive headache and a huge mess, and we just want to like triple make sure that everything's correct as we're filling. But basically that's the process. I'll start one more time from the home screen. We go down here to maintenance, we maintain dispenser, and then we can click on whatever colorant we're looking at to make sure that we can dispense it. We also want to make sure that for the first dispense of the day, we want to make sure we purge everything, and that's just, we click on any colorant and we can hit purge all right here on the bottom, and that dispenses just a little drop or two of every single colorant. We do have to make sure there's a canister underneath it, but it just kind of gets the dried crusty colorant out, and make sure we're ready to go for a perfect dispense. So that's another aspect to it too. Sometimes I'll just glance with my eyes and make sure that that's been done, especially in the morning. I'd love to say we do it every morning, but you know, we're not all perfect. That happens. But the Y3 colorant, the S1 and the R3 are the ones that tend to get a little dried out if we don't clean it for a few days, if we miss a day or two. Everything else is pretty darn safe. But we've got all the tools here, so anyway, just in case there's something that comes up, that can kind of help you if you need to. So now on to dispensing paint. We have 4 options here. We have our color match, we have our color lookup, we have a correction, and we have a manual entry. Like 90% of the time we're going to be looking at this color lookup. And so what we do is, that's when we know the customer chose a color here, or we have the color name, or we can look up from any brand. So we're going to click on this, and it is going to take us to a screen where we've got my collections, other, and all. Now, my collections, remember this program is for mixing mainly Royal paint and Clark & Kensington paint. It'll do Cabot too. So if you're doing a color that is an ACE color, and we're going into an ACE product, Cabot product, we just leave it on my collections. If we have a color, again, we stock Benjamin Moore, that's what our color strips are. If we have a Benjamin Moore color, that's considered another brand from this program. So if it's a Benjamin Moore color, if it's a Home Depot Bear color, if it's a Sherwin-Williams, Farrow and Ball, just there's all these brands. If it's something else, we want to go to all, and that will search everything. And what's really, really important to keep in mind is we can search by name, or we can search by formula number. So usually the name pulls up just fine, but it has to be exact spelling. This does not work like a Google search. It has to be exact. If you miss a space, if you miss an E on the end, if you miss a letter in the middle, it will not pull up. It has to be exact, whether we're searching within our ACE colors that we have in stock, or we're searching a Benjamin Moore color or another brand. But almost everything is preloaded. If you're not getting it, a helpful little tip that can save a lot of time is pull out your phone and Google the number or the name of the formula, because sometimes we'll get a Sherwin-Williams color, and maybe it's so new it's not in the system, or I have had customers bring in the name and the spelling isn't quite right on their documents. So just be aware that, I mean, it has to be perfect for the spelling. There was once that actually the spelling was loaded wrong initially into the computer, and so that threw us for a loop once upon a time. But anyway, it's a great resource. Usually we can find the color. Don't be afraid to consult Google to find the color number too. Sometimes that can be a huge help. So now when we're searching, it's pretty easy to search. We just want to make sure that we are stop talking so I can type real quick, that we actually just search exactly and we pick the absolute correct color. So in this case, I'm bringing up alabaster, and alabaster is a color that almost every single paint brand has. And so I'm bringing this up to show you that it's going to load multiple colors from multiple brands. But the other thing I want to make sure you're aware of is different brands, Sherwin-Williams, Benjamin Moore, Ace, Behr, they all might have the same color name, but they are not the same color. If it is the same color name, but there are different brands, it will not be the same color. So if someone gives you a name, sometimes there's only one. Sometimes it'll say, okay, yeah, this is just by Benjamin Moore. That's it. We don't need to do anything. But sometimes it brings up a lot of these colors, as we see here. And in that case, we need to know the brand so that we can get the customer the correct color. And that's where it's handy having like the formula name. Usually that doesn't cross over, but just to show you, Benjamin Moore has a color, and this is a great example too. One of them is 876, the other one is OC-129. If the same brand has the same color within the brand, they should absolutely be the same color. But if you are matching, making another gallon for something they already have, it is best practice to go ahead and say, okay, let's read the formula that they had on their old paint can. Oh, it's an OC-29. Let's just stick with that OC-29 just to make sure there's no mistakes. So as we go down, we see we've got Benjamin Moore, we've got a Beauty by Design, Dunn Edwards, PPG has an alabaster, Eddie Bauer, Sherwin-Williams, and again, identical formula numbers. Those two are going to be the same. It's the same brand, so it's going to be the same color, but since it's different brands, it's going to be different colors. And obviously these get away from alabaster. You've got alabaster Eve, alabaster frame, so I guess in that way it works like Google a little bit, but it does have to be the exact spelling. So in this case, we're going to stick to our Benjamin Moore stuff. That's what our customer's wanting today. So we're going to go ahead and click on this. And then we're going to have a whole range of options. The most popular is going to be the new Ace Gen X. That's probably what we're going to need. But the old Ace Gen X is for the older Ace labels that we haven't got rid of yet. Hopefully we will have most of them gone, but that could be the case. We don't have any of the old paint samples in the pint size anymore, so we rarely click on this. It's mainly going to be this new Ace Gen X on top. But then as we go down, you can see that there's a few more items down here. The Cabot Gen X, we're only going to use that when we're mixing Cabot. Same thing with Duckbeck Stain, Minwax, or Insulux. That they're loaded right there. We don't really use the rest for our specific store, but if we scroll all the way down, if we are doing a sample pint, which is one of these guys, we're going to be clicking on the new Ace Gen X samples. So if we're sticking with paint, if we're not doing any Cabot, we're mostly going to be clicking on the new Ace Gen X. So we're going to go ahead and click on this, and from here it's very easy. We're just clicking on, okay, awesome. Are we Clark & Kensington interior, exterior? This interior, exterior is going to be the high gloss option. If you have to go back, you just go along here and you can toggle between the screens. So we have our Clark & Kensington interior, exterior, high gloss. Then we've got a Royal interior and exterior. And looking at the rest of these options, we've got our cabinet and door paint in there, but there's really, there's the stain too. The Royal stain is going to be within those. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward. So in this case, we're going to do a Clark and Kensington interior color. And then we go through and we can choose our sheen from our flat enamel, eggshell, satin, semi-gloss, and then they kind of sneak the cabinet door and trim in that particular selection. So let's say we're not doing cabinets. Let's say we're painting our living room, and the customer wants a good satin finish, the satin sheen on that. We'll go ahead and click on this, and at this point we can choose between quart, gallon, or a 5-gallon bucket. Gonna go gallon, and then for the last step we're going to be doing auto. We want to auto select the bases. Sometimes the reason this gives us an option is, let's say we've mixed a whole bunch of paint in the 433 base and we're a gallon short or something. We can technically go into the 440 base. You can always go deeper, but you can't take a color that needs to go into a 433 and go into that 410 base. It just won't fit. There's not enough colorant that can go in there. But generally for this step, we want to do auto and then auto for that selection. And then it's going to go ahead and generate the formulas for us. So in this formula, it tells us what we need. The other option we have, you know, if we are out of S1 colorant that's required here, you know, for some reason something crazy happens, we've got another formula down here that does not have any S1, that has a B1, and it's going to be identical to that color and give us a good match. So just so you know, just so you have the options as to the why, this little formula right here is it tells us how close the paint is, so to the actual color. So anything below like a 0.4 or 0.5 is going to be perfect. There's no way the eye is ever going to see the difference between those. So even right here, down here, these colors are all going to be a really good match. But when you start getting to be that 0.3, 0.4, those are no longer going to be a very good match anymore. We always, standard practice, just stick with the top one, and that's going to look good for us and be great. So we can also change the size here if we need to, but we generally don't. Once we have this, what we want to do is go ahead and print the formula label. We can just come over here, toggle how many we need, hit print. Our printer will go ahead and spit that out, and then we can add it to queue. Now our queue's right here on the screen, and we're going to go ahead and click on it. We can get to it from the bottom here too, and I've added that. That's going to be right there. All we have to do is go ahead, we can print from the screen too, but we click on it, hit dispense, we go ahead and grab our gallon and scan it, and then make sure you have 2 hands on the gallon to push it into the machine, and then go ahead and dispense, and then we'll pull it out when it's done. Make sure to use 2 hands. We don't want any messes. And then we hammer it nice and good. Don't be afraid to take your anger out on it a little bit. I've never had a can explode in the shaker, and I hope you don't either. So anyway, that's kind of the general, that's the most common one. As always, please reach out with any questions you have with this process. So everything goes to this queue when we're ready to dispense. Sometimes I'll add some extra gallons beyond what the customer wants, because maybe they're going to be working on it throughout the weekend, and instead of going through all that stuff, we can just have some extra gallons that so we can be ready to dispense if the customer needs a couple more. So sometimes I'll do that. Not a big deal. We'll keep them for a minute or two. But once you dispense, if you don't add those extra gallons, they usually do delete out of the queue automatically. So anyway, going back, we've got our color here that we dispense, and that kind of gives you an idea of what it's like to go through that program, that process. So I'm going to go back to home, and what we have is some other options. So if a customer wants to custom match a color, whether it's on their favorite dress or pillow, or they stole a chip off their neighbor's wall or something because they love the color so much, or maybe the paint is 10 years old and they have no idea what color it was once, we can go ahead and we can use our fancy color match machine to get that perfect. This has to be calibrated every day before you use it, but that's a really simple process that we'll be able to teach you. Let's see, I need to grab a chip real fast so that we can measure it. In this case, maybe they want a red color that they found in a catalog. All we have to do is go ahead and measure that specific sample, and then our computer's going to take a whole bunch of pictures of it to look at it, make sure we get the right color, and then we go through the exact same process of choosing new Ace Gen X, or maybe it's that new Ace Gen X sample that we're needing that's towards the bottom, and we go through that same exact selection. In this case, let's do some cabinets. We're going to do Clark & Kensington interior. Maybe we do a cabinet door trim and a semi-gloss. Gives us our gallon size, and then again we do auto and auto, and then we've got a pretty good match. Here's a 0.13, pretty decent. We definitely want to use that. We go ahead and we can add it to the queue, and then we can go ahead, print our formula, get it dispensed, get the customer on the way. Now that we've covered the custom color matching stuff, we're going to go back to home, and then we've got a few more options down here. So the correction doesn't come up too often, but what happens is occasionally the dispenser does a mistint. And usually that's from an improperly cleaned nozzle, or we didn't purge it right or something, and we can actually still save the gallon. So if we do the correction, it'll just tell us what to do. We can measure the mistint. Maybe this red color came out pink. Well, that's not really the case, but anyway, maybe it's this lighter pink that it was really plugged. We measure the mistint, and then once we do that, we'll measure the actual color that we're shooting for, and it will give us the formula between the two so that we can save the gallon and still get the customer taken care of. If for some reason we can't save the gallon, well, we need to just do away with it, grab a new one off the shelf, and get going with it. So that shouldn't come up too often, but it is a handy tool to know about. This last one is a manual entry, and probably use this the least because it really just comes up if we want to like put some colorant and some primer or something. I'll probably just usually purge, utilize the purge into making a primer a certain color to help tint it. But we go through the process of choosing what exactly the product is. In this case, new Ace Gen X is clear down here, and we can do manual formulas for the entire thing. I'm gonna go through Clark & Kensington interior, maybe semi-gloss, gallon, and then we can do select the base. And so I guess one area that this would really come in handy with is if we get stuck, if we have a formula that the customer is asking for that is a color that exists, but maybe it's too new that it hasn't been loaded into our software yet, we call the ACE helpline. Super awesome, super helpful. And then we can actually get called into the Benjamin Moore Paint Center. They've got experts there with paint questions that can help you if you don't know. Sometimes there's some situations that are just a little bit funky that we can talk to an expert on. I had a customer, for instance, that we're spraying some exterior paint on some exterior doors, and it happened to be really humid and really like cooler, like 50 degrees or something, but it was really humid, and we were getting some micro bubbles in the paint. And anyway, they were able to talk through about, you know, kind of what to do. And basically it came down to temperature in that situation, that if we would have had it be 60 degrees or so, that would have helped it significantly. But anyway, we got that fixed and it got all worked out. But if we have a color that is so new with this, we'll call into that care center. They will give us the formula for it, so we'll select the base on it, and then we'll be able to choose all the colorants within our selection tool. They'll tell us, you know, maybe we're a B1, 0, 4, and a 2, and then maybe we're a G1 for a 1 ounce, 0, and then maybe a 6 on here. And we can go through and add all of those to get that resolved. We apply changes, and then we can go ahead and add that to queue and dispense it exactly the same way that we did the others right here. So anyway, that's a pretty good overview. Well, I guess you can tell me if it's pretty good, but it's the best of my knowledge, best of my ability overview of this whole program right here. If for some reason it freezes, best practice is we can just exit out of this thing and then relaunch the program. If that doesn't work, restarting the computer usually does. So I'm not going to say it's immune to bugs or anything. But those are our 4 tiers and kind of how to use them. We've got our maintenance covered on this. The only thing we haven't covered is the other software. So I've got it right here on the bottom. We've got the Color RX right there. This software is for mixing all of the Benjamin Moore specific products. So for our store, we're typically going to use the Ben, and it's going to be the Regal Select. And it works just a little bit differently. It's not quite as, I don't know, I want to say easy on the eyes as the other program, but the functionality is exactly the same, and it just really is what you get used to. So again, we're going to do our alabaster color here. So this is where we're going to enter that color, and it's going to be alabaster. And then in this case, we want to see all the colors that pull up. So we actually, if we're choosing a Benjamin Moore color and going into our Benjamin Moore paint, we can just go straight to the selection for the interior, exterior, the sheen, and paint type. But if we are, maybe I'll do that in a second if we're doing multiple colors. So we'll just go ahead and hit this drop down menu, and what you'll see is there's a lot more options, but it's just condensed. So we are going to have our samples up top. We're going to have our Ben exterior, our Regal Select interior, the new Element Guard exterior, and we've got more Regal Select interior, and it's not too much to toggle through with these selections. Now, the biggest thing I guess I'd like to tell you is we have these numbers here, and let's do the Regal Select. So we're Regal Select interior eggshell finish. That's got a code of 549. Well, they're in the process of changing the label, so if it's a new label, it's going to be N for new 549, in which case we'd select that. So that's the only hiccup with the Benjamin Moore stuff. Sometimes you get everything loaded and you go to the queue, go to dispense it, you scan the item, and it says it's incorrect. And so sometimes it's just a matter of the base, that the one you grabbed is a 549 instead of an N549 or something. This just kind of silly. But the Regal Select is absolutely awesome. I won't use anything else for my project, so we're going to go ahead and do that in the nice pearl finish, and then it is going to load our Benjamin Moore software here, and it's going to say that we have a few different formulas to choose from. Again, if it's the exact same color name, different formulas, it's usually the same, but that's also something that we can go ahead and look at the old one, or just pull the color out of the color catalog or the chips off the chip rack and make sure. But in this case, we can just click on this, we're going to select it, and it's going to generate a formula for us right here. Benjamin Moore does, this is really handy for a customer service perspective, is we can click on this and say it's also known as, and so they actually have the exact same color in a few different color cards or color names. So that's kind of interesting too. Now the other okay, I guess we should finish this before I move on. So in this case, we're going to have this, and then we go to dispense, and we're gonna dispense in the same queue that we had the ACE stuff. So it all gets dispensed out of the same place. We've got our formula that's transferred over there and works just great. I'm gonna go back to that software, and that's how we load it. Anyway, print, all that stuff. I guess one thing I did not go over with the ACE stuff that I probably should is sometimes people want the same tone, but they want a lighter or darker color. Well, we can do that. We just have to go to edit right here on the bottom when we're clicking on that bottom left tab, and we can go 50% lighter, and we can adjust that, and it will change the formula right there. We can also go, we want to go 70% darker, adjust shade, and then we apply changes. That doesn't come out super often because we start messing with formulas, and it's a little bit less of a guarantee that we get it right, but that can work great. If the customer's paying for a sample just to make sure we get the right color, then we can go ahead and replicate that. If we ever are matching a color exactly, customer brings in their old gallon, they need 1 or 2 gallons more, because of that adjustment on the shade deal, it might be that color on the label, but we actually need to read the individual color shots that go into that gallon to make sure that nothing ended up getting modified, so that we can get them the perfect color. So anyway, that's kind of handy to be able to adjust the shade there. We're gonna go back in here, and let's say they're after a Sherwin-Williams alabaster. The only difference is we're gonna hit on this search all button, and then we're gonna go into our same regal pearl finish for the interior. And what's going to go through is we're going to have our Bear, we're going to have the Benjamin Moore, we're going to have everything with alabaster in this program, and you can see that there's quite a few. We're going to go down here, and we're going to click on the Sherwin-Williams color and select that, and then it's going to change this color here to alabaster. And the Sherwin-Williams, we can double check the code, and we can make sure everything's right. So one tool that we have is, once we add it to the queue, we can tell the customer what undertones are in this. And it's a lot easier to tell on those undertones right here. So I'll get this pulled up. So it's really nice when we can come over here and we can see some of the undertones with the color. So this alabaster, it's gonna have we've got some yellow and we've got some red, so we're gonna kind of be I don't want to say pink, that's too extreme, but there's gonna be a little bit of a red undertone with a little bit of a pink undertone with this particular color. So that's just really nice from a customer service perspective, when we're gonna say, hey, look, they're choosing a gray. Grays especially can be really difficult. What's the undertones gonna be? And we can look at that and go, okay, well, this is actually a navy color. This is very close, but we can see that this has a majority of blue. this color is definitely going to lean blue. So just kind of nice, can give more data to a customer to help them to make a decision and make sure they've got it all taken care of. The other thing that's really cool with software is sometimes a customer has a color. They don't want to pay for a sample, but the colors from another paint company, and they go, man, I'd really like to see this person just to check it out. It looked good online, but you know, we are not going to have a chip for any other manufacturer besides Ace and Benjamin Moore. So what Benjamin Moore software has that's really cool, and I use it all the time for customers, is we can get this pulled up, get it searched, and we've got this button over here that's changed. It is the closest Benjamin Moore color. So right here we have Sherwin-Williams Alabaster, and we can click on this, and it tells us that the 968, the very top one, is the best match for it. It doesn't guarantee that it's perfect. It's a perfect match, but usually it gets us so it's close enough so we can say, hey, you know, customer, here you go. That Sherwin-Williams Alabaster that you have is awfully close to this 968 Dune White. Here's a sample chip for you. Does that help you make your decision? And they're usually pretty tickled about that we can have that availability within the Benjamin Moore software, and it can help them do it. Maybe they had that Dune or the Alabaster at home, and they're trying to pick a complementary color, and anyway, don't want to go back and select it or whatever. But whatever the situation, as you go down, it gets further away from the color. The top match is always the closest on this particular one, but it really is an awesome, convenient tool for us folks manning the paint counter. So, so that's really awesome. Benjamin Moore has a few other things. We can reformulate the Benjamin Moore stuff. We don't often do that. The need doesn't come up for that. We can modify the formula the same way. In my opinion, I think it's easier to modify the formula once we actually add it to the queue here. We can, again, make it lighter or darker, or add or delete colors if we need to. Doesn't come up very often, but my goal was to have a all-encompassing video so that you kind of know. And anyway, that's it. Comes up from time to time, not often. So that's pretty much everything with adding colors on this particular program. We can save it to customer files, just like the other one. We can go ahead and save some of these items right here at the save button. I'll let you kind of experiment with that on your own time, on your own just playing with it and making sure you're comfortable with the program. So besides that, we've got all of our options that we really use a lot for Benjamin Moore right here. So our quick color search is the screen we're on right here. We can get into customer files and stuff, but the color matching, that's when we actually connect to our Spectro machine. Benjamin Moore, we do have to enter in a sample ID, whatever the name is. So we're going to call this our magazine red, and then we're going to go into let's go into our Ben exterior low luster. And then we can go ahead and we can measure the sample. We hit OK. It's going to show us the Spectro. We can make sure that we're measuring the accurate size on here. Make sure that that's getting a very good average with everything. We go through, hit OK. One thing I did forget to touch on with this is sometimes you don't have this big of a range. We can go ahead and we can shrink that down if we need to. The goal is just to have all the same color within that color spot, so we can do that. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and we'll hit OK, and then we want to go ahead and formulate this into a color. and this one's saying it's actually not available. You get that with darker colors or brighter colors. Very bright green, very bright pink, very dark red. Sometimes it can't do it, in which case we can attempt to do it in the Ace one, which I believe it did give us a formula earlier, or we can start looking at chips by hand and see if we can get a close enough color to satisfy the customer there. So that's rare that that happens, but it can, and that's a good example there. So we can go ahead and we can enter that sample ID and formulate in whatever product we actually need to, and be on the way. So anyway, it would let me add it if we can, and then we can go back to the color search. That's the most common screen we're actually going to use. Anyway, I'm just trying to go through this, trying to see if there's anything that I missed. I'm sure there is, but I guess that'll just give me an excuse to kind of show you later. Hopefully this has been super helpful. It's super important that paint is right. We don't want to make any mistakes, and we want to make sure that the customers can get the service and expertise that we expect. So by all means, do not be afraid to reach out with any questions whatsoever. There's a lot of cool tools here, and we just want to make sure we can be helpful to make our job easier, and we can better support the customer to be helpful to them. So as always, please reach out with any questions, and thank you so much. Catch you on the next one.